Hello everyone, this is Peace Daddy. I am coming to you with the 5th lesson in a series of lessons on mixtures and solutions. Today we're going to be talking about saturation and supersaturation. I'm going to leave my card up there just for a minute if you'd like to pause the video and read the materials that you'll need and the steps that you'll need to get started. This is one of those lessons where you're going to have mom and dad around because you're going to be using something that is hot, okay? We're going to heat up a pot of water and it's going to be hot, so you need to make sure a parent or an adult is nearby. So the materials that you're going to need today are salt, or you could use sugar. I'm using salt, but either one will work. So there's my salt. You're also going to need a heat-resistant jar, a hot pot, and you can see over here in the corner I've got a pot that is heating up, and a spoon. So the first thing that you're supposed to do is make a saturated solution of salt in the heat-resistant jar. And if you remember in a previous lesson, we added some water to a glass, and then we added some salt to the glass until we had a little bit of salt still at the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a couple of teaspoons of salt to my water. I'm gonna stir it up, and I'm trying to get the salt to dissolve and make a solution. Remember, a solution is something where one part of the mixture, the water and the salt, one part of it dissolves. So in this case, the salt is dissolving into the water. And it's still a mixture, right? Because we're still mixing two things together, so that makes it a mixture. And I'm gonna go ahead and pour a little bit more salt in there and stir it up because I'm going for a saturated solution. That means that not all of the salt is going to dissolve. There's gonna be a portion of it that's down at the bottom of the container, and that's what I want. So let's put that in front of the camera there and see if there's any at the bottom. And I think I do see just a little bit, but just to make sure, I'm gonna put the rest of the salt in there because we wanna make sure that we have a saturated solution, and I want you to be able to see that there is indeed some salt down at the bottom when I'm done. All right, hopefully you can see that down there. I can see it from where I'm sitting, is that there's a little bit of salt down in the bottom of the jar there still. So the directions say to make a saturated solution, and then it asks, what do you see? Well, you see some of the solute, which is the salt, down at the bottom of the solvent, which is the water. And it says continue to add salt until even hot water can no longer dissolve any more of it. What happens? Okay, so now what we're gonna do, this was just cold tap water. I'm gonna pour it into my pot over here. It might sizzle a little bit because the pot is hot. Okay, so I'm gonna pour the water into the pot, and the water is gonna get heated up. I'll move the camera a little bit so you can see. Okay, the water's gonna get heated up in the pan there as I turn the heat up, and I'm gonna switch over to a wooden spoon that won't be so noisy and get myself a little bit more salt. All right, so that's had some time to heat up a little bit, and I'm gonna stir it. And I'm trying to see if I can get that extra bit of salt that was in the bottom of the saturated solution to dissolve. And guess what it did? Okay, so I'm gonna add a little more salt. I'm gonna stir that up and see what happens. See if I can make that dissolve. And again, you need to do this with mom and dad. I always say these are activities that you can do at home with materials that you have at home. But for this one, make sure that mom and dad are nearby, just in case. All right, I added a little more salt, and it's still not saturated. So I'm gonna add a little more and stir. What do you think's gonna happen? Is it gonna be able to dissolve all of this salt? It may have dissolved all it can dissolve. I still see a little in the bottom of the pan, do you? And I'm stirring it. So what happened is the question. Why does that happen, that when the water is heated, the salt, you can dissolve more salt in the water? If you have your science notebook with you, which you should, this is activity 5, and what we're finding is that we now have what is called a super saturated solution. Okay, so the salt, no more salt will dissolve into this water no matter how much I stir it. Okay, so what have I shown? Well, let's take a look at the back of the card like we always do. This is activity 5, so we need to read statement number 5. And statement number 5 says, when heat is applied to a saturated solution, the matter lying at the bottom disappears, or it seems to disappear, because with heat, the power to dissolve is increased. If you continue to add matter, there comes a point when even this increased power to dissolve cannot dissolve anymore. The solution then is called a super saturated solution. So that's what we did today. We went from a saturated solution to a super saturated solution. So again, this has been activity 5 in a series of lessons about mixtures and solutions, and thank you for watching.